meeting to order. Ms. Hageman, will you call roll, please?
Mrs. Leskowich?
Here.
Mrs. Butler?
Here.
Mrs. Donahue?
Here.
Mr. Beath?
Here.
Mr. Elam is not present.
All right, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, now we'll do a review and approval of the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion, please, to amend the agenda by removing the approval action of item 5, proposed positions, and revising it to an item for discussion only.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
And then will you take roll?
Okay. So it's to amend agenda item number 5 to state discussion. I just want to make sure I say it right here.
Remove the approval action and revise for discussion only.
And then, so we won't discuss tonight, right? We'll discuss in the work session? Or,
No, we can, actually, can I revise again? Sorry.
Okay.
Amend the agenda by removing the approval action of item 5, proposed positions, and revising it to an item for discussion only ahead of the executive session.
okay.
You okay with that revision, Ms. Butler?
Yes, that's, I had to take, I'm writing it down so I can follow.
Sorry.
I got it.
So we'll still discuss, and then we'll go into the executive session after the discussion. And then that will be the last thing for the meeting tonight, right? Okay.
Ready when you are.
Oh, will you call roll, please?
Mrs. Leskowich?
Yes.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue?
Yes?
Mr. Beath?
Yes.
All right. So the next item is resignation.
Well, you want to, okay,
Is that right?
yep. That's fine.
Thank you.
Yep, you are correct.
Okay. And so, okay, I've never done this before, but I'm assuming, are we just doing a motion to accept the resignation? Okay. So do I have a motion for somebody to accept the resignation of Mr. Danny Elam as a board member?
I'll move.
A second?
I'll second.
And then will you take roll, please, Mrs. Hageman?
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue?
Yes?
Mr. Beath?
Yes.
Mrs. Leskowich?
Yes. And now, is there any more discussion associated with this about like how we're going forward, how we'll advertise, how we'll,
That'll be part of executive session.
okay.
Yep.
All right. And then now we've got public participation. Is there anybody here who wishes?
Did we approve the agenda? Or we're supposed to?
We did with
Okay,
the
with
amendment
the
that
amendment.
she,
With the amendment,
yep.
yeah. And then is there any public participation?
I don't have any cards.
No? Okay. And, and then now we're going to go into discussion, move to item 5, right? Proposed positions, open for discussion. Who would like to start?
Don't look at me, I gotta pull it up first.
Before I forget, I would like to see if we could add 2 more positions on this list, perhaps. Business manager and reading curriculum director. Now, I know, I mean, we don't have to discuss all that right now tonight, but could we get it on the list of proposed positions? And if you have any input, like on your experience with business manager, or if you've ever had one before?
No.
Okay,
No.
if you think that that'd be beneficial?
I haven't had either of those positions.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, business manager and what was the
Reading
second?
curriculum director.
Oh, so like, okay.
I'm sorry, Matt, did you say you haven't been one of those, or you haven't had one of those before in any
I've
office?
worked with a business manager as superintendent. I've not had a business manager. No. Yes.
So part of the business manager would be helping with human resources, like an HR type
You can
department?
cut it lots of different ways. Yeah, it just depends.
So the thinking there is perhaps that will take some of the stuff off of your plate, Tina, if we had somebody doing some of the personnel type of tasks.
Okay. So I'd like to start with the positions I've proposed.
Okay.
Because, you know, again, as I stated at the last meeting, my experience with the comparative data that I've shared with the board, that's what I think we need. You know, maybe a year or so ago, business manager with all the construction that we had, we probably could have used something in that role and capacity, or / HR person. You know, our needs, in my estimation, as your superintendent, are curriculum and instruction at this point. As well as getting up to speed the other departments, food service, transportation, and our classified folks in those areas. So,
Does anybody else have,
I'm sorry.
does anybody else have anything to add to that?
Oh, well, on the business manager part, or just,
Or on your-
or anything? Yeah, I was
on
gonna
the
say,
list.
anything, well, I don't want to jump all over the
Yeah.
place, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that that's the plan. We'll just go through the list. But I don't know, do you want to speak to each position again, or, I mean,
again, I just, to me, again, as superintendent, two districts previously have moved the needle academically. Have done so like actually opposite, reducing staff. I think I have a pretty good feel for what would most benefit our district. Again, I've only been here a year and a half, but I've been here a year and a half and had this perspective. And then, you know, as far as the comparative data that's there, you know, I think that is, you know, I share that, just not that we have to be a copycat of the districts around us or the similar districts, but just to kind of show you that the requests are not extraordinary. It's not going to, you know, put us way above anything. It's not outlandish. It's not, you know, breaking the bank. They're, you know, positions that I think we sorely need to get the job done.
So again-
And in our time here, you know, I think we've done a pretty good job of, you know, the positions we've added have paid positive dividends for the district. So, you know, I take that responsibility of being good stewards with the taxpayer monies very seriously. And, you know, just, this is what I think we need. That's what I believe strongly we need.
So let's start with the assistant principal then. So
Yeah.
for the elementary, so right now, the way I understand, we have one for K through 2, right? And then one principal 3 through 5.
We talking assistant principal?
Yes,
For
the
the
first,
elementary.
I'm just going to go down the list.
Okay.
So the first one, assistant principal for the elementary. So we have one K through, primary for K through 2, and then 3 through 5, right?
Right.
Now, would this assistant principal just be one assistant to both of them, or one of them? What would the assistant principal in the elementary?
We've talked about both, but I think both scenarios. I think to start off, it would be to assist with low-level discipline as well as attendance matters.
And attendance matters.
And perhaps take like evaluations of specials and/or classified staff off the plates of the K2 and 3-5 principals.
Can you say that one again? What does that mean?
So do the evaluations of like our music teacher, art
Oh,
teacher,
okay.
PE teacher, maybe our ISs. Because currently, right now, our Director of Student Services does our ISs, IS evaluations, and that's, you really need your building principals doing those. They're in the front lines with them, so.
That makes, so Mr. Cochran does the special ed director does the evaluations?
Director of Student Services does the evaluations of the IS staff.
Okay.
ISs in all 3 buildings, yeah.
And then are there ISs assigned to the elementary building? Or are they, yes? Okay. And then, other than those, so what, so you said attendance, discipline, and then doing the special evaluations. So is there other things that the principals want to be doing that they can't right now?
So I think speaking on, if you talk to, share the example that we have going on right now at the middle school. We have a principal and an assistant principal. When you have co-pilot, you can be in a meeting with your grade level teachers or department of teachers. And while other stuff is going on, you're not getting pulled out of the meetings. And I don't know if you had arrived in time for our meeting this morning, but yeah, that's what the elementary teachers were talking about. Is they get pulled out of about any meeting that they try to have, meeting with teachers to talk about their instructional data and what's going on in the classroom, what's going on with kids. So having that extra layer would be a start.
So if they're getting pulled out, are these, they can't dedicate time to meet with the teachers to get their feedback?
Well, they
on
can,
things?
but you get pushing and shoving on the playground or a fight. I mean, that's needs immediate attention.
Oh, I see.
If that's your grade level.
Right.
So that's there's one Tanya for K2 and one Carrie.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would fall under the discipline. So is there other stuff, like any kind of education plans, or I know like we have some work to do on literacy? Would they also be, one of those 2 or 3 people be focusing just on that, or overseeing that?
Well,
or?
the new science of reading stuff that's coming, I mean, it's a huge undertaking because it's going to mean every staff person has to go undergo the training to be a part of. And so, yes, there is a lot of work there to be done. So yes, that extra layer of support by way of an assistant principal would definitely be of help, for sure.
Okay, so they stay in their lane, they just do their own, they're not backing each other up?
Tanya and Carrie? No, they're K2 and 3-5. They've got their work cut out for them.
So
Just covering
if
those.
something happens and K2's not doing anything, they don't go help?
I would never say they're always doing something.
Okay.
You said the assistant principal will be doing attendance and discipline? But you have that listed in the dean of students.
That's at the high school.
That's at the high school,
Okay.
yeah.
So who's doing their attendance now?
Well, you have the secretaries that do the accounting, just the
Right.
day in, day out of stuff. It's the following up with the truancy, meeting with the truancy officers, conducting attendance intervention plans, scheduling those, meeting with parents, and staying on top of those.
So the secretary doesn't set up the intervention meetings?
I don't know if they may schedule them.
Okay.
They can't be the presiding officer.
No, they
over
can't,
those.
but, okay.
Again,
So what is our-
to speak to the elementary principal stuff, we should look at, when folks move into this area, they want to know that their kids are being taken care of, right? And that just doesn't happen with the classroom teacher. you look at the administrator to student ratio in this county, I don't know, you said data, you can make data work however you want. That's a
Yeah.
little bit scary for me, because that just screams inadequate coverage for
True.
our teachers who need the support of administrators and our students. And, that is, you look at that data, we're behind by 2 at that building. I don't know where we would put 2, but we've got a configuration where we can fit it. We've got another office and we can juggle some folks around. But, and it's not like, Carrie and Cassie before, and Ms. Petty that was here before. I mean, they're great folks, but there's only 7 hours that they're in school that they can get stuff done, and that's just to ask them to be instructional leaders, and especially with all the changes coming with reading, without additional support is. I just don't think it's right.
So this assistant principal, then, will that individual back up both principals? Or are they going to be only
I
in
think
their
that's
lane
how, I
like?
think that's how we'll start until I can talk this board into getting another one. And having an, again, now your divisor's 3, not 2.
I mean, out of all of them, this is the one that I would lean towards. I mean, based solely on your numbers.
Not-
I mean.
Numbers in the county.
What I'm
Yep.
saying, just
Yep.
based on your numbers,
Okay.
this would be the one that I would lean towards. But I still have to ruminate on that.
And I would have another question. So is there other things driving the need for them to be pulled away from their normal duties all the time? So example, intervention, any kind of intervention with the kids. So I think a lot of times what happens is something happens on the special education side, and then a parent isn't happy, and rightfully so from the stories that I've heard, because their kid either got pulled off of an IEP or wouldn't get put on IEP or weren't getting the right accommodations. So that drives another meeting because they're lacking in that area. So would you say that if we also focus on the special education side, would that also reduce some of these tasks that the principals are dealing with constant meetings with parents and ISs and everybody else involved?
Our building
homeroom
principals
teachers?
need to be more involved with our IEPs, intervention specialists, and our special needs classroom mates.
Yeah.
They just do. Right now, they don't. And I'm sure that was out of necessity to take something off their plates because there's just so much.
Well, if we
Is
have.
my guess.
If we have an SRO over there, the SRO can pick up a lot of the scuffles and behavioral
But
things.
they
can't
don't hand out discipline.
No, but, I mean, they can.
They're really
they
not
can
supposed to be
help.
put in that role.
No, but
either.
they
They're
can-
supposed to be brought in when, it's a
True,
matter.
but if they're
that's-
there and they're interacting, it's another adult that can be there, be eyes. I'm not saying that this position isn't needed, but maybe we need to look at how the workload is divided amongst the people who are there to help with better coverage. If we had an SRO, that SRO is in the classrooms helping, it's another person on the playground, it's someone in the school, and that has to help the principals
Sure.
just to be there,
I mean, if there's a scuffle breaking out and the
De-escalate.
SRO's there, they can't hand out discipline, but they're not gonna just stand there.
But they'll say, they can say, hey, guys, how can we settle this? Or they can talk to them about,
Just being an adult present.
because that's part of an
You know,
SRO too.
any adult that is a district employee, we would have that expectation
Right.
to break up a scuffle, pushing and shoving amongst kids and take them to the office.
Right.
At that point, it belongs
To the principal.
the principals, the administration, not an SRO.
Right.
Not a secretary.
I never
not an
inferred
aide.
that an SRO
Okay.
was going to mete out punishment. I just said that it's somebody else in the,
But we
in
need,
the trenches.
you need our SRO, there's a lot we can be doing with our SROs that right now we can't because
And
that
teach-
that
I mean-
person is stretched.
Right, I get that.
Yeah. To pay what we pay an SRO to fill space, it just, that's not what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be,
I know what, yeah, because I had the first SRO here in my back office, so I've seen what they do and how they interact with kids and what's possible to be done and the relationships that they can develop. And it does take some of the work off the principal, just to be out there connecting with the kids and developing those relationships. And when you see a police officer around, you think twice about getting squirrely.
Well, that's why, wouldn't it be more proactive than reactive if we do have a uniform out there on the playground? And so we don't have to take a trip to the principal's office? Because how many K through 2 are going to the principal's office? I mean, is it
That's crazy.
It is.
It's-
What did you say,
I
Tina?
said you'd be surprised.
Yeah,
I was surprised, yeah,
Oh, okay.
by the number of little ones that get in trouble and do things, yeah.
I mean, they
Right.
don't have good self-regulation, so
Well, that's
it's a,
one
it's
too.
a lot of, it's a lot of trips for little kids to, I've seen it. And it's not pretty, they don't go quietly.
Well, I was just going to say, first of all, thank you for allowing me to amend it, and I just want to make sure that the board does due diligence on all the positions and recognizing that. I know that the pages of priorities have kind of changed, so I'm trying to cement this in my head, so I want to make sure that when I vote, that it's, for the right reasons and the right new positions that we might need. But I did want to tell just a quick reference point. Everybody wants a helper. Who doesn't like a helper, right? And at work, my coworker, not my helper, but he came in after me, was another Bethel student, which was awesome. But he decided to take another job, which was a promotional type thing for him, which was great. And then when it came time to say, are we going to need to backfill? I went through a written exercise, and it was well worth it. I had to detail what was going to fall through the cracks without that person there and the impact. So it's nice to say, well, I need help here or I need help here, but I had to write, so I started with that list and then I wrote down the results, if you will, what would happen, and then the impact. And it was a very revealing exercise, and I found out, some of that we didn't necessarily need to be, maybe not as many things were falling through the crack because we were picking it up or, different things, manage themselves sometimes. But I just wanted to throw that out, that was a great exercise and was a value for myself and my chief, if you will. But anyway, I just wanted you to know, thank you for taking the time. I want the discussions to continue because there are a lot of, there was 26 positions thrown out last time. That's a ton, and big money, somewhat big money for, it would be for me if I had to pay all these employees, but, and I do as a partial, as a taxpayer, but I just want to make sure that we are doing just like we are now, putting the thought and the time and the effort into making sure that if there's only so much of a pot to go around, where does that go? Just to make sure, because I don't know if we can get all 26, but it's good to have goals. And I just wanted us to take our time working through these. And I know it's February, but March will be here, and our next meeting is a couple weeks away for the workshop, and then the 19th is the next week for our regular meeting. So within those 3 weeks, there's still some work and research we can be doing to make sure, that we're continuing the dialogue on the new positions. So that's just where, I just wanted to share that with where I was coming from.
Thank you. And I want to piggyback what she's saying, and I'm not saying that I'm applying this situation to this, but what I'm saying is, at work, every time something happened, or every time we had to work late, or put in over 8 hours, or work overtime, or whatever, it was always, we need more people. That was always the go-to. It was like, we need more manning, we need more manning, we need more manning. And like she said, we would go through and actually the processes and determine, well, one, we shouldn't be doing that, or we got 2 people doing that, or we don't even need to do that. So sometimes I think our knee-jerk reaction is always, let's just go for manning, because that will fix everything, and it doesn't. Then we have 2 people doing the job of that one person is supposed to be doing. So like when you brought up the SRO, perhaps that might also minimize some of the trips that they go to the principal's office. And then also I've read that Life Academy, what's the? Lifewise. That's also, they're showing where those are also contributing to discipline going down, that they're starting to see now that we're, so I don't know if we've done anything like that. This is the first year we've had it, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it might be a little bit too soon for that, but all these other programs in place, perhaps, I mean, some of that stuff also might be, freeing up the discipline stuff. But I'm with her and everybody else. We just want to make sure that we truly understand what these positions are doing and how it's going to affect the student achievement at the end of the day.
And it's not like taking aim at you, though I'm sure it feels that way.
Right.
But I feel that we take the money out of people's coffers, out of their home, through our taxes. We take money away from how they live day to day. And we're caretakers of their most precious possessions, their children. So I feel like it's my due diligence to really think through out loud and on paper everything I do, because these are such important responsibilities that we have. As you said, we have to be the best stewards we can. I'm not saying anything in this list reflects poor stewardship, but I think we're expected to look at what we're asked to do and make sure that we're doing the very best, get the biggest bang for the buck for our kids. And so that's just what we're doing.
And I get that. And, at some point, though, none of you can, replicate 22 years of experience.
No?
As much as you read, whoever you talk to, can't. And again, this is hard for me to say. I'm a card-carrying member of Self-Depreciators Club. But, I've been in a growing district that had to be mindful of spending as we grew and had to improve academically. I've been a part of that in the 1,700 student high school. Fredericktown, when I took over, we had the lowest graduation rate in the county going for 3 years straight. 84% was our average. When I left, it was 98. The year after, it was 100. Out of 618 districts in the state of Ohio, we were ranked, Fredericktown, 608. 608 in value added. What's value added? That's the progress piece. That's how well your students are doing. Bottom 2%. When I left, we were in the top 20. Bucyrus, same stuff. Cut staff at both places. So I get all of that. And I would not put down on paper a recommendation that was frivolous in spending or didn't stand the chance to move the numbers academically for our kids. And when I say numbers, that's what we're talking about as kids. It really frustrates me when folks say, well, it's just 2%, 3%, it's just a couple of kids. Did you hear what you just said? It's a couple of kids. That matters. And so at some point, and I appreciate you doing homework and stuff, but when I call the HVAC guy to come over and fix my central heating, I don't lean over his shoulder and say, well, why are you doing this? Why'd you use this tool? Why didn't you start here? Why didn't you do...
A lot of people do.
And how do you feel about
That's what the reviews are for, right? How many stars does this guy get? What do the anecdotals say? At some point you have to back off, or otherwise you're not going to come back, probably.
But you do tell them that I've reset the breaker 3 times, the temperature's refluctuated so many
Sure.
times, and stuff like that. So I think that that's where we're coming from, is like, so if the stat was right, there's 46 teachers in the elementary, so, but it doesn't split them up how that would split them up, so then you split that, even if you split it in half, then you've got one principal to, what is that, 23 teachers, and then if you give them another person, now we're at 12 teachers that one principal will be overseeing, and I guess I'm just looking at it from the perspective, if we knew how many, is discipline really a problem? We had 15 calls this week to the principal's office, or.
Again, elementary, was it one administrator for 435 kids? The rest of the county's 1 in 205? It's, again, Tanya and Carrie are awesome, but they're not world beaters, right? They're brand spanking new. They need help. They're just not, it's not like we just stumbled upon, they're wonderful, and it's a lot. It's a lot.
So if they were more, I'm not even alluding to getting rid of them, but if they were more experienced, would they need less help?
No, that's not what you're seeing in the data, right? It's no, we need time. Here's another thing. So, curriculum maps. Do you know what those are?
Curriculum maps.
Curriculum maps. Curriculum maps are,
Everything.
they're everything.
Is it like a lesson plan?
Finance, I
No,
know
curriculum
that.
plan is, okay, here's grade 2. Here are the benchmarks, here are the standards, here's the pacing guide, here's what we're gonna get covered in quarter 1. Here's what we're gonna get covered in quarter 2. If you're lucky, the assessments are part of that, so we're all using the same assessments. You don't have those here. They don't exist. So when a new teacher, we've hired a bunch of new ones, we don't have anything to give them to say, here's the expectation for 2nd grade. We don't have those here. Those are a basic roadmap. Start calling districts, ask them. Do
You don't have any curriculum maps?
We don't have
No,
curriculum
not one.
maps.
That's the,
And we're
I'm just telling you
finding yeah,
where we're at.
I mean, those are your standards broken
we've never
down.
had 'em.
So, and I guess this all goes into what keeps going through my mind, which is a couple of superintendents ago, they hired a principal who had never been in a classroom and thought it was great 21st century learning and preparation. And then you tell me you have to have principals so that your data increases in the classroom. So if you have a principal who has never been in a classroom evaluating through this one superintendent, I just am, you gotta understand.
I get it.
I'm a little flummoxed
But
about,
you-
and are the principals gonna do the curriculum maps? Why isn't our curriculum director working on this?
I don't know. You've been here longer than me. Tell me why it wasn't getting done.
I thought it was. I
Okay.
think there was talk.
So-
I'm just flabbergasted.
So how do they
we not
teach?
have?
Me too.
How do we not?
Because, how they get it done, there are standard, curriculum out there that you can grab. There's a blueprint from formerly ODE, now DO. But you still take those things and you make them yours. Has been my experience in 3 different places. And have I gone into those places and we were spotty in some areas? Yeah. And who did that work? Principals, with some help maybe from the ESC and the teachers. It's important that the teachers be part of that. They know the content the best. So somebody asked if, the principals need to be involved with that. So I don't have any answers why it wasn't, but it's not. And my experience has been, we need roadmaps. We need roadmaps.
and how does the principal do maybe because it's elementary, how do they do it if they're not in that subject matter? Like if they're not an ELA teacher, How do they write maps?
They do it as a committee. and
Yeah,
it-
they lead the discussion.
They lead
Yeah,
the
you lead the
discussion, and
discussions
and the teachers are there, and I mean, it's a big collaborative effort. We did curriculum mapping, and I was able to actually sit in some of them at the ESC last summer to see how
It's
they
a
go.
cool process.
And they had all of us, and they.
Can be, I should say. Yeah.
It was really, enlivening and made you excited because it was collaborative, different ideas, and you mapped it all out, and everybody got all this great information to go forward. And it's a huge thing to expect your teachers to teach and to get good results. I don't know how you do it without a curriculum.
And why it's so crucial here, I think, is because, not I think, I believe strongly, is we're growing. Gosh, we're adding teachers to grade levels. And every time we do that, we add another way of kind of doing things. And right now, we kind of have arrows all over. And then you start getting, well, I want so-and-so teacher. Why do you want that teacher? Well, because these teachers don't do this, this teacher, historically gets great grades, and blah, blah, blah. That shouldn't be. We should all be preaching from the same text,
I
yeah.
thought we assigned mentors, and I thought
Yeah,
we
but-
even gave some stipend for mentors.
Oh, you're required to by law.
Yeah, that's
okay.
part of the rest of
As a
it.
RESA, that's a
RESAs.
law, it's a
You have
requirement
to
by
have
law.
Okay.
a
Yeah.
mentor.
So I think we're at a great spot. We need to get down to that basic work, and we're going to see increases, and because it's a lot like the process you talked about, and writing down what you do and when you do it, and because you do that then in a grade level or at the high school math, and you list all the standards, and all of a sudden there are a couple pieces that aren't in any of our classes. It's not in Algebra 1, it's not in Algebra 2. Well, I thought they were teaching it in 8th grade, and 8th grade saying, nope, I don't teach that. And then grade levels, it's, well, I teach this then and that then, and it's like, we're all going to be pacing together. So it's that type of work that we're trying to get to. And we're big enough, we need help.
So how have they not made that a priority right now? Like,
I don't know.
even shorthanded, I mean, if they are, I mean, what else they can't be spending that much time in meetings and on the playground, right? I mean, what has prevented them from, this would be student achievement.
Are you talking about the administrators in the building? Is that why?
Yeah, so you're saying that the principals, we don't have curriculum maps because the principals need an assistant principal to free up some of their time from discipline,
No, you
meetings,
haven't had
evaluations.
them
So-
ever, I don't think.
I
So
just kind of get empty looks when I ask. Here,
Okay, I don't-
so why I share that with you because that is basic work that needs to get done, and it is timely. It's going to require extra money because we're going to have to pay teachers for time outside of school. The administrators need to lead it. But that's a big piece, but that's just one piece. Evaluating our teachers and doing it effectively, a basic evaluation, just the time-wise, the meeting, the pre-observation conference, the evaluation, the post-observation conference, right there's probably 3 hours, 3.5 hours. That's not even the typing and going through the matrix and filling it out and gathering evidence, and it's probably 6-7 hours per teacher. It's a lot of time. It takes a lot to run a building. And we haven't even talked about the classified folks that they are in charge of as well.
And I guess that's where I'm at, is where we would have to identify all those requirements. If you identified all the requirements, and then you could split them up, and we'd know where everything goes, I guess is another thing, like what you're talking about.
We'll do that. That just totally makes sense, and that's just good practice. And it's a good practice not only to let our staff know who's in charge of what. kind of like the sheet we have out there on our website, who to call for this, that, and the other. You start adding those layers, we need to make sure that our employees know who's in charge of what. And then, of course, our parents need to know. But that's just, it's good practice. Yeah. And it'll, you know, and there'll be growing pains with it, just like there is at the middle school, but they're loving it. I think I think most middle school teachers will tell you this is one of the better years that they've had because things are getting taken care of. And not just discipline and attendance, but you've got Brent. Brent is eager to be an instructional leader, and he's working hard with our math folks and breaking down some old rickety walls, fences, if you will, and getting people to think about doing things different to serve our kids and better prepare them for the next level. So
Thank you.
that was a lot.
Yeah. This is a
Sorry I didn't bring my water back in.
lot. We can always take breaks. Is there any more discussion on the first one?
Is that just the first one?
That's just the first one. Maybe
Okay.
we do need those donuts.
Yeah, really. I'll turn my ringer on.
And we'll have more discussion, right? Because we're not making any decisions, any votes right now.
Yeah, you know, I put them on there because it's like, the more I thought about it, it's like, you know, I prided myself last year in making sure that we were out early with the positions we knew that we were going to add, because we want to get the best people. And now that we have an improved compensation package for those folks, so we could really, you know, be out there and feel good about, you know, going through a process of making an offer and expecting people to stick to their commitment to us instead of backing out like half a dozen times last year because they found a higher paying spot in the area. So, I you know, I think especially administratively, there's, you know, a lot of monkey move around.
Yeah, I definitely think we're heading in the right direction, for sure.
You know, the counseling positions, you know, those were, I think that and the superintendent were italicized. And the reason I italicized those were we have restricted funds that that are in the general fund that we have to spend on student wellness.
Right.
And I
On
think-
student what, I'm sorry?
Student wellness.
Wellness, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So they used to just give you grant money, right? Here's some grant money to spend on student wellness, and you can have social emotional counselors and things of that nature. Well, then now they have it as part of your funding package. So your Fair School funding plan has, instead of just one restricted funding, which was career tech, now you have gifted, student wellness and success, ELL, English language, and so, you know, you've got to make sure you're spending those dollars the way they want you to spend those dollars. So, and of course, career tech, but we don't get any of those because we don't have a CTE 26. And that's one of the things I'm like, well, why don't we have a
We should.
CTE 26? And we've never had it. So we've never gotten career tech funding, even though we have career tech classes going on. And so those are the other things that I sort of need to partner up with somebody who's got an academic, you know, understanding. I just know the financial part of it, right? I know enough to be scary. So those are the kind of things we're finding as we dig through the data and look at what I don't think anybody's ever had the time to look at. So,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, those are the kind of things, and that kind of, you know, guidance counselors, social emotional counselors, we can use that money to pay for them because that is restricted. So
How many are already at the elementary?
You
Aren't there
have-
2, 3?
one,
Just one.
Just one.
Amanda.
Just Amanda?
Yep.
yeah. And one that's split between the middle school and the high school.
Yep.
And so Amanda.
One SEL, not one counselor.
Right, we have two counselors
two counselors.
split.
Two counselors,
Yeah,
one
so it's really
SEL,
one and-
yes.
One and one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so 2 counselors at the high school.
Right, right,
Okay.
and, yeah, yeah.
Trying to remember everybody.
So, again, thinking about the general fund, the pot, we have those smaller bowls in the pot that we can't touch unless they're spent on those types of people. And so there's additional monies in there that we can afford to pay those new positions without affecting
They've
the
sort
big
of-
pot.
So they'll.
So they've given us a sort of, get your plan together.
Yeah.
Get people in where you need to get people in, but they're gonna start clawing,
As they always do.
as they always do, back funding.
Don't spend
So
it,
if your
yeah.
transportation isn't efficient, we're gonna start clawing back those dollars that you received. If you aren't spending your social and emotional dollars, we're gonna claw that back. You're gifted, we're gonna claw that back. So I'm looking at all of that because whatever we get, we wanna hang on to, right?
Right.
So, yeah, so I'm sort of digging into all the data, so we make sure that we spend it. And if we pay a little more, as long as it's in those areas that we need the most help, I'm okay with that.
So what you're getting, the specialized funds, will cover this without anything extra out of general fund?
It'll be a little extra, but not a whole lot. Yeah, it's
Well-
not anything that's gonna cause me to say, oh my God, pass a new levy. Not right now. But I think the community needs to understand, we opened a whole new building. I have, to look at all new operating costs that are going on over there. And what that building has certainly shown me about this one is not nearly, would never be considered efficient. So what can we do to fix some of the things that we're
Yeah.
looking at? Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so
So-
these two exceed their line item.
A little bit, yeah, because we already have 2 that we're paying for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
And they would report to the elementary principal
Principals,
then?
yeah.
Or the middle school principal?
Yeah.
Right.
And so when we talk about, so a guidance counselor in elementary, is that different than like a guidance counselor in middle? I always thought of a guidance counselor as the person that tells you you need to take these classes.
Right, that's
And,
right.
and then that's all I know about guidance counselors. So
Yeah.
it seems like we're getting a little bit more into are these counselors the ones like, because Johnny's sad today and she's gonna help him, or?
That's more in line with elementary, about half and half at the middle school. High school is a totally different animal. And just with the, keeping kids on track to graduate, to the social emotional stuff, which is why we have somebody very specific for that. But just the coursework and choosing classes and just keeping kids on the rails. It's a big job, especially at the high school. And then, all the college stuff and applications for, scholarships and, we've got some work to do there. And again, you look at the data, what I probably should have been a little bit more thorough on when I put that chart together, because a lot of folks have both, have SEL or, social emotional awareness, SEA, counselors on top of the traditional counselors. And, directories are kind of funny if you ever start digging around and looking at that stuff. And some are labeled properly, some aren't, so. But we can certainly use more assistance
we
in
have
our
a
guidance
full-time
office.
psychologist too, right, in the high school?
We actually have 1.5 for the
Okay.
district from the ESC.
Okay, good portion of their time's taken up in testing
Evaluations.
and evaluations, yeah.
Yeah, meetings.
But they're available also, right?
Well, our one wasn't enough for
Right.
for our caseload, which is why we entered into an agreement to get a half a person, so.
So do our SEL funds cover our psychologist, or is that not considered?
That's purchase service, I don't know where we pull that from, no.
It's been a general fund
Because-
expenditure. The problem that we have, we could have picked up probably the half-timer, but supplant versus,
Yeah.
you know what supplant means?
I know what the word means.
Okay,
I don't
but
know how to apply
when it comes to grants and things of that
Uh-huh.
nature, if it's been picked up by the general fund for so many years, you can't just supplant those general funds
Okay.
by saying, I'm gonna cover that with a grant or
Okay.
with restricted funding.
Okay.
You supplement, but you can't supplant.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean for it to come across that way. It's
Yeah.
just words that treasurers use all the
Yeah.
time. So, and so the general fund has been picking up that cost, so I can't just move it over. But if we were to hire in-house, like a psychologist or whatever, we could certainly pick that up with a grant because it's a new in-house position or something like that.
Okay, so our psychologist is a purchase service,
Yeah.
so we're getting them from the ESC?
Correct.
It's
Yeah.
not our person?
Yeah,
It's just one, right?
one
Is
and a
that
half.
1.5?
Oh, one
Both,
and a half
the one
psychologists?
and a half come from Miami County ESC, right? Because we don't have a salary schedule or anything for a
Yes.
psychologist in-house.
Yeah.
You guys were,
They're
you know,
both-
we'd been so small that you didn't ever have that position.
Right.
Didn't need a full-time person,
Right.
but we do now.
I was texting Mr. Podgorski, I didn't want you to think I was trading stocks in Tokyo or something. I just wanted to let him know that we switched the agenda and
Oh, okay,
we're
yeah.
running late. Okay.
I guess I just feel better with justifications, stats and requirements like you did. So when you said, so quite honestly, like when you compare us to other school districts,
Yeah.
like 1 to 400 some students,
Oh.
that's good for general range to know that we're not like over exaggerating everything. But I'm really looking for, well, we don't have curriculum plans and we don't have whatever. I think those are the justifications I would be looking for when we're looking for these positions as to justify why we need them.
Yeah, I appreciate that and totally get it. And lots of different ways to skin a cat. I'm going about it the way I've skinned cats and in similar sized districts. This one's a little different because we're growing exponentially, but again, been in a building that grew this fast. But we need to get back to the classroom. You know, we've just, you know, Jay Borchers was incredibly knowledgeable, and I've had many conversations with him, especially last year, asking him with the charts I was creating, because that was helping me, you know, figure out where we've been and what's happened, and, you know, there's things that didn't get done. You know, he was on hire from the ESC, and sometimes it's easier just to do things and get it done, rather than to say, come on, let's do this all together, and then there was just resistance, and the turnover and administration made it tough to get the real work done. So, trying to get the real work done for our kids.
Yeah, that's student focus, student
Yeah.
achievement.
So, again, the director of curriculum, I could use that person. I've not had that position in my 2 previous districts because I leaned on our principals, the folks that are in the classroom evaluating the teachers, driving curriculum and instruction decisions with the teachers. That extra layer has never made sense to me because human nature is, well, that person's coming from the ESC today and I'll play the game and and then I won't see them until next week, or they won't be back in our grade level or our building till this next week, and they don't evaluate me anyways, and that's human nature.
So our curriculum director is also outsourced too, right?
Yeah.
Has been.
Yeah,
For a
for a
long
long
time,
time, Jay, and I
Yeah.
forgot who it was
Yeah.
before.
It's Brandy now, right?
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah, it's Brandy.
And the feedback I'm getting is the teachers want them in the building all the time. They want in-house type of thing. And with our reading, even reading nationwide, we're really stinking at it. And then even our reading within our school, we're
Be
really
better.
stinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that I would really like to focus on the reading too, so that's why I thought that.
But we can't let math go, because,
Oh,
I
gosh,
mean,
no.
that's what, you know, I've kind of told our principal, get ready, because, you know, we can say we're focusing on reading, so we're going to let math go? No, we really can't.
No, that was just as
We've-
bad as reading, yeah.
Yeah, we've got to, room for improvement.
Yeah, but we're
And-
getting
and-
90 in the block and the 3
Yeah.
teachers, and, yeah.
Now, so, I know I probably sound like bleak, doomsday, whatever. You can look at some of our performances over the years and say, well, without all that, we're doing pretty good. Especially with the growth and changed demographics and, but the way I think is like, God, we can get everybody on the same page, and we're using maps, and we're using like assessments, and we're having more conversations led by our principals about, okay, who's our bottom fifth readers? What are we doing for them? And we're talking about them every week, or our math kids. We're really going to be cooking with gas, so to speak. You deal with gas? I don't. There you go. We're going.
With it.
They're attacking gas stoves now. I hate it. I put gas stove in. I want that. But that's the encouraging thing. It's like it's not that we could be better. I know in the county we're okay, but similar district, that's the next level. I don't want to be 19th, 20th out of 21. I think we can be up there.
Well, even,
Well,
like,
we're
even the
not that-
state standard is like 65%, which is a D minus if you're doing
Yeah.
it on a grading scale, and we're okay with it. Well,
'Cause
no, we should
Yeah.
not be okay
half-
with a D minus coming
half of
out
the
of our
students are
kids.
there. Half of the students are at proficient. We only have like a quarter at the advanced and
Yeah, when you look at
The other
the one sheet that's on our website that shows our OST scores since, I don't know, 2016, 2017. And then it compares to what the similar district average was and the state average. State average, we're way above the state average. The state average includes Cleveland, Dayton, Columbus, Youngstown, Toledo. That's not us. That's skewed. Those numbers are really skewed. When I'm looking at a similar district, and we're just barely there or barely not there. And I think we can be over it
yep.
and be the leader with tweaks, not overhauls. Yep,
And a plan.
and a plan.
Is there any more you want to discuss
About,
right now in the?
oh, I'd like to pole vault over the assistant superintendent into the athletic coordinator.
Yeah.
Like that play on.
Yeah.
I like what you did there.
Spring season is right around the corner.
Like what I did there, because we're gonna have pole vaulting and,
Yeah, I just looked at the pit today.
yeah,
It's beautiful.
that's pretty exciting. But on your chart, I mean, I'm just,
Yeah,
I worked in the athletic department, so,
I heard you were awesome.
well,
Just
I
saying.
And everything.
I don't know.
Just saying.
I don't know about awesome, but I could take care of what needed to be taken care of. But,
Not an easy thing to do in athletics.
She
no,
was
it's not. It's
Nope.
a lot of juggling,
Yeah.
a lot of phone calls at 6 in the morning. I don't think I got a bus. Are we having a bus for this? Yes, I got the bus, don't worry, so, thank you. It's usually Kathy or somebody like, you're coming, aren't you? Yeah, so we got it done, but 4 out of the 12 schools on that chart that you had like a middle school AD or an athletic coordinator, and out of those 4 that had one or the other, their sports teams range from 34 to 49 teams, and we're 52, which I don't consider far off. I consider
Yeah,
that in there. If you have Chase Goulet and Mr. Clute and Andre and all those people helping out and Christina, you can make those. You can make those. You're stretched, but you can make those. Well, the other 8 of that 12 didn't have either, and they had 34 to 58 teams, and they were making it work. And there are other factors within the athletic department. You have your secretary and your trainers and our supplemental support. So I'm thinking right now, if we're talking, and I believe I'm a firm believer and lover of athletics.
Me too.
There's so much more than just win and loss and what you learn. But right now, the money that we have to work with, and there may be more on the horizon, I think needs to be directed towards a curriculum, in-house curriculum director, or something else. Maybe we can take some money and increase the supplementals, so, you know, you make it worth their time to give up all those Fridays and Saturdays and all those kind of things. But right now, you can pretty much handle it if you expect your secretary to do some work too. And there are down times when you can do that kind of help. So I don't know.
So that recommendation really came from, and I did that, yeah, I get the data. I was a little surprised at the data. Our data, though, participation-wise, is our participants have nearly doubled over the last 5 years. And a lot of the names you rattled off, it's why. We've got some really good folks that are leading.
I was there during that time.
those
I know
programs.
how they doubled.
Yeah,
It was like
and,
used in a good bowl of dough.
Bethel Bowling and Wrestling are here to stay. Had a gentleman in recently, they want to bring youth wrestling here because they have youth wrestling at Huber. And a quarter of the kids are our kids anyways. Now
Yeah.
they want to come here now that they know there's going to be a sport here.
Right.
And we had 6 kids qualified this, so those our numbers aren't going away.
Right.
Especially when we have good people like we do,
Yeah.
just about across the board.
They're not going away, but I think we can kind of put that off for a little bit. I mean, I don't know that we're there yet.
Yeah, appreciate that input.
I
Yeah,
maybe I do see it in the future possibly, but right now, I think it can be managed if you do an impact study. What do we have to do, top to bottom, most important to what we like to do because it's fun for us to do, and then assign and adjust. Just like.
I'm listening.
And I don't know if we have, I just can't remember the supplementals right now, but we've always had like the winter help assistant athletic director and a spring and a fall. Do we still have those on the board or have they gone by the wayside now?
There was something done to them because we just negotiated all those. Those are in the negotiated agreement. So you mentioned changing those. That would take not an act of
MOU,
God, but like an MOU. Almost like it. But I try to be respectful of and acknowledge when we have growth in programs. And we've had growth in our performing arts, and we've tried to pick up the slack there as a district in paying some of those folks that are crucial to some of our performances and helping our kids bring out their talents and those types of things. We've increased numbers for golf, numbers meaning supplemental contracts.
Right.
We've done the same thing for football. We're adding assistants for most of our varsity sports because they're growing.
Right.
And so just trying to do the same thing, follow suit with the leadership of that department is, we keep adding kids, we keep adding staff. We haven't added one at the top to manage it all. I think, certainly can wait. I just think it's going to be one of those things, if things go right. We're going to have middle school wrestling and a few others pretty quick, and we're going to need extra help there, for
A lot
sure.
of times middle school, from my personal experience, a lot of times dealing with some of the schools in the area, the middle school principal picked up some of the athletic scheduling and that sort of thing. So it's another one of those things where if you have an impact study, who's doing what's on your plate, what can you do, and do you want to do it, who wants to do it. I mean, so there are ways to make it work until we do have to add a dedicated individual, I think.
And that's what I worry about, especially here at Bethel, is having the same people wear multiple hats. And because that's cost the district a lot of money, just quite frankly. And then, not saying anything about the people that wore those hats, it just, those weren't good moves.
No, but it was poor oversight,
It's poor oversight,
way poor oversight.
poor oversight.
So that, I mean, that can't be necessarily laid on the feet of the individual. If-
Oh, no, no, no,
if-
no,
I
no,
mean,
no,
if
no,
they're
no,
not being, if there's not
And that's what I
oversight.
worry about as far as me. I'm just like, look where we've been.
Yeah,
We've been burnt by having multiple hats on one person.
uh-huh,
I don't want to go down that road again. I don't want to leave the house for the next person and them start having to undo all of that. We are growing. We are
Yeah.
going to continue to grow. We need to set ourselves up for growth, not, oh my gosh, we don't have curriculum maps, and we don't have enough space, or this and this got missed because, well, we only have one AD and we've got 350 student athletes when we used to have 125.
yeah.
So try to be proactive, carefully, because
Yeah.
I know and that's different for us. I've been around long enough. If you've read that book, we're frugal, we're proud of it, get it, but that can cost you too, and it's cost this district hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's true. I mean, that's not really the general impact as far as athletics goes. But I think that,
But it's support, it's oversight of people, and if you don't oversee your people, all of a sudden, somebody's saying, you don't even have bare necessities like curriculum maps.
true. But,
You don't have team packets, you don't have team
an
policies.
administrative assistant is an assistant who can do some of the things that, and if that administrative.
Spoken like a true administrative assistant.
I mean, it's an assistant, that's why it's in the name.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
so,
no, I
so
agree.
if you're not delegating or talking to your assistant, then that assistant isn't being maximally used. And that's just,
I would agree.
And I agree 100% of sports. I am a huge fan because it teaches leadership, all of that, commitment, all that kind of stuff. But I still want to focus on the academics first and make sure that
Yeah.
we're on a good path going that way with academics, and then move forward. Because we're still bringing in new sports and stuff, and the kids are still involved in sports. And
Kids are going to, first superintendent I ever worked for said kids are going to be busy after school. They can either be busy here, doing our things with our people, or they can be busy out in the community when mom and dad are still at work or whatever. And I'd rather
supervise.
have kids busy here with us.
And David Vale, great guy from years ago,
Is that your
did
guy?
his,
That's my guy from Miamisburg, yeah,
he's
love
my
David.
guy. He was working on, he started his PhD when we were working together, and the premise of his PhD was get your staff involved with these supplementals, and you'll retain them and develop relationships
Yes.
and improve your district. And it has not been the focus for years, and we've seen what's happened. So it's important to feed these kind of things and have it available, and to encourage our new teachers to get involved, not to hold them off for 2 years before you can think about it. Get them connected and going, and part of the hive right from the get-go, instead of like, I've seen it work. And I know David, and I love David, and I'd do anything David said.
I'm not saying that about David.
Well,
No, I love David, but no.
well, you know what? He suggests some fun things, and I'd be willing to try it.
No, he's great. Yeah, I mean, I worked with him, alongside him for 5.5 years at Miamisburg.
Yeah, he's good
No,
at it.
I'm glad to hear you say that. And again, I feel strongly that, kids need to be busy with us. And I was glad that the board and BA, we were able to do some things with our supplemental contracts, and we've been able to support the performing arts. We still have some work to do, but we're heading the right direction. We need to, those can make your school really strong.
I'd really like to build the clubs, and that's why that
Yeah.
long, I hope that they're really long every single time I
Yeah, that
report,
was awesome.
so that I can tell you what's going on, and those are kids involved, developing talents, creating relationships, becoming friends with the people they go to school with, and that will only help improve the whole culture of our schools. So the more we can focus on those things that will make them strong adults and individuals, I think it's a win-win situation.
I agree.
Okay, so I'm good. I'll shut up.
No, yeah, this is good. This is what we're here for. Any other?
I had
discussion?
a general question. Have you gone through this list and thought about it from the perspective of if the school no longer grows, how many of these are still needed?
If the,
Very doable.
yeah, I could do that pretty easily. I mean, if we stayed at 2,000 students?
Yes.
I'd stick with my principal recommendations, guidance counselor recommendations. I could think differently about the assistant superintendent position, depending if we were going to build or not. Athletics, again, I think it's bigger. We can, maybe. What else is on there?
Secretary at the high school.
High school secretary, transportation supervisor, EL coordinator.
Yeah, the transportation supervisor, I believe, is needed, and EL supervisor, that, I think I had that marked admin or certificated. We've got a couple folks internally that, first off, Erin Bailey, who we had previously, she did both. She was part-time classroom, part-time coordinator. I don't know that we would do that again, but maybe something close to that, because we brought some really qualified folks on board with some really great experience. We might be able to do something like a teacher on special assignment type thing, not a full-blown administrator. We really need somebody that just is coordinating the efforts, and a pseudo-administrator, department chair type position. So that could go either way, but if numbers don't change, that's still a large part of our population.
Yep.
So I think we still need that. So thank you for letting me talk that out and explain why that was marked as either or. So, yeah.
Okay.
But, transportation supervisor, I think that's, it's a large department. And, we're looking at some software that will help us become more efficient as far as our routes go. And even still, that's just, it's a group that needs supervision daily and direction. Not that they don't have direction or an unruly bunch or anything like that, just that's to do right by them, yeah.
Okay.
Have any discussion?
Does that cover them all there, Mrs.
Yeah, I
Donahue? That's a good question, very good.
No, I think
I think we got everybody.
You should have seen my face when he showed me his list. But, yeah.
I locked the door.
But I would say I just want to fund requirements that exist now. So I'd be hesitant to hire somebody because we think that 1,700 homes are going in. That you're not, like, that's not exactly what you're saying, right? You're not.
No.
Okay, I
That's
just
what,
want to make sure.
no, I'm saying
Yeah.
the numbers stay out, you need those positions.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just do.
Yeah.
I think I shared at the last meeting, I'll say it again. The night I was hired, they said, yeah, we just hired a guy to be the assistant principal for the high school and the middle school, and he's also a transportation supervisor, and he's never done any of those things before. And I thought, that's not good. It's not good.
No.
Whoever he is, it's just
That's not our job.
way too much.
Yep.
So, anyway.
Good discussion. Any
Okay.
other, no, last final thoughts? Anybody? Going once, going twice? Okay, we're good. Good discussion. All right, then that leads us to the executive session, correct? Because that was the last
Yes.
thing on our thing to do. And so there won't be any other discussion or anything after the executive session, so,
That'll be it.
yeah.
Yep.
Yep, we're ending with the executive session.
I'll make a motion to move into executive session for item number 1.
Second?
Ms. Hageman, will you call roll, please?
That's it there. Okay. Mrs. Leskowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. V?
Yes.
Name, rank, serial number.
646. 646. 646. 646. 646. 646.